Okay, now you want to work. All right. Okay, so hey everybody. Hey everybody. So I am just getting started because technical difficulties, because life. All right, so I'm only coming on here today to talk about cycle syncing and what that's all about. For those that don't know who I am, my name is Monica with a K. I am the owner of Twisted Intimacy, and I'm a cycle syncing womb health coach. Pretty much, y'all, what I do is I teach you about your bodies, how to really find a more holistic approach to support your hormonal balance, to support just your nutrition, your physical health, mental health, things of that nature. I am not a licensed therapist or doctor or anything like that. So I do advise you to seek any professional assistance if you want a professional diagnostic, or um, you need treatment, things like that. You ain't come to me. I'm just gonna give you the holistic approach, and you take that to your doctor. That's what I mean by that. Anyways, let's get started. So, if you guys don't know what cycle syncing is, I always get this a lot. A lot of people think that it's all about when a whole bunch of women are together and their periods sync up. That's literally what everybody thinks cycle syncing is. But I'm on here to tell y'all that's not the case whatsoever. Cycle syncing is way more than just your periods syncing together, because there is a difference between your period and your actual cycle. Everybody that has a womb, you have a cyclical phase, which is in correlation with your infradian rhythm, right? Your infradian rhythm is I'm gonna talk about this a little bit later, but just know that it happens on a phase level versus your circadian rhythm, which every person, if you are a human, you have a circadian rhythm too, and that's the 24-hour cycle. So those that may need to know if cycle syncing is for them, if you have a uterus, you have a circadian rhythm and an infradian rhythm, right? God bless with two. If you do not have a uterus, you only have a circadian rhythm, and that's a 24-hour cycle. Okay. So cycle syncing is for those that are not on birth control, because you are not having what I like to call an authentic cycle. You are, because you don't ovulate, you're not actually experiencing the phase of your cycle like you would if you were to ovulate. So, cycle syncing, you can still do it, but you won't see the benefits from it if you are on birth control. Also, again, like I mentioned, if you do not have a uterus, oh, how come this? If you don't have a uterus and you don't have your ovaries, if you have your ovaries, you can still cycle sync. Fun fact. But if you do not have your uterus, do not have a uterus, do not have ovaries, cycle syncing may not be for you, but you can still do the practices to be more with your feminine flow. You just won't also see how your energy will be optimized. So cycle syncing 101 for you. But what is it? I keep mentioning cycle syncing. What is it? Cycle syncing is the practice of just aligning your routines, like your self-care, your nutrition, your workouts, even leadership styles, business, pleasure. You're aligning this with the phases of your cycle. I mentioned this earlier, that there are phases because we have an infradian rhythm if you have a uterus and ovaries. And those four phases are your menstruation. So everybody's very familiar with that. That's your period. Then you have your follicular phase that comes right after your menstruation ends, when you don't bleed anymore, and you're experiencing a kind of like you're rebuilding your hormones, your energy levels. You're going to start to see that increase over time. You're going to be able to do things again because you're not in rest mode like you're in your menstruation phase. And then you'll have your ovulation or your ovulatory phase. So technically, you only can ovulate for up to a 24-hour period, which means that there's only one day out of the whole month that you ovulate, right? But you can experience your ovulatory phase for 3 to 4 days. So a couple of days before and a couple of days afterwards. And when I refer to this is more of like the energy that you're in. Okay. So again, you can only ovulate for up to a 24-hour period technically, but you experience your ovulatory phase between 3 to 4 days. And then you have your luteal phase. So with your luteal phase, you're at, because you were at your peak energy with your ovulatory. And now luteal is more of a, you still have a little bit of that energy, so you can still do stuff, you can still be outside. But then it's going to be time to wind down and start to rest to prepare for menstruation again and repeat the phases of the cycle all over again. So you see how this definitely has those ebbs and flows. And I'm not going to be on here long, so I'm not going to get into what the hormones are looking like, because again, there are hormones and different hormone levels that happen during each of the phases of your cycle too. So what you want to do is just make sure that, again, you're not doing too much in menstruation and that second half of your luteal phase, but you're also not overdoing it because you have so much energy during your ovulatory in the first half of your luteal phase. So just know that you want to make sure you're optimizing your energy that best works for you. So there's that. But a little bit of background about where cycle syncing came from. So cycle syncing, I didn't create this. It's not, I wish I did, but I did not. I learned about cycle syncing in a book called In the Flow by Alyssa Vitti. She developed this. I mean, because this is an old, like, don't get me wrong, this is an older practice. So there are folks that have been doing this for a very long time in the past. But Alyssa Vitti, she ended up popularizing this and developing the cycle sync method. And with this method, again, I read about it in the Flow, and it's pretty much you are aligning each of the phases to something that you want to focus on. So let's say nutrition. So for me, because I was experiencing hormonal imbalance in the past, I really wanted to focus on, well, how can I eat better to see if I can balance my hormones? So I started seed cycling. I started drinking my herbal teas and things of that nature. Then I was like, okay, well, what's next? Workouts. So with working out, I actually look so much better working out with the phases of my cycle versus trying to do what everybody else is doing. I try to work out 5 days a week. I promise y'all this. I'm a 3-day girly. I'm a 3-day girly. I work out 3 days a week, but I also don't work out for a long period of time. My workouts last between 30, 45 minutes, maybe an hour. If I get lost in the dance or something like that, maybe a little bit longer. But I'm typically somebody that I like to work out 3 days a week, 30 to 45 minutes, and that's it. Nothing too much, nothing too crazy. I do HIIT workouts when I can, and then I switch to free weight training, and then I go into some slight yoga towards the end. And then when I'm on my period, y'all, I'm not working out. I'm probably asleep somewhere. So that's how I like to do it. But everybody is different, so you have to find what works for you. That's what I always say when it comes to cycle syncing. It's about you. It's not about what everybody else is doing. I can just give you the foundation of how to do it, but you got to know how to do the things. So let's get into it, right? So I told y'all about the phases of the cycle. I told y'all what cycle sync is all about, but how do you get started? So I don't know if y'all mama told y'all about this. I know my mom did, but she didn't really explain like about the phases of the cycle, because this isn't taught in school and this is not taught in everybody's households. So, but she always taught me to track my period. And that's what I've been doing since I've been 12. And I like to write things down. So I like to track my cycle now with my app, with the Temp Drop app. But how I track my cycle, I track from, let's see, how do I track? I track from when I actually bleed red. Not brown, but red. Hey, Phoenix Empress. So I'm just talking about cycle syncing and just explaining about like how I'm tracking my period so that we can learn how to track our cycle. I'm gonna give y'all that extra tip in a second. But yeah, when I track, I make sure that it's the first day that I bleed red, because I used to think that as soon as something come out, That's when you start tracking that your period is there. However, if you are spotting or if it's brown, uh, that's not a how do they put it? It's not a real bleed per se, but it's also a sign that you can have low progesterone and other signs of imbalance. So that's something to take into consideration when you are tracking your cycle. Because as somebody that I did have an 11 to 13-day cycle in the past, I was actually tracking the way I was spotting. But I'm actually glad that I tracked the way I was spotting, because before, I'm thinking, everything's all okie dory because I get my period every month. It's fine. But we are not taught about that. We need to learn, we need to actually be more cognizant of that, because again, that can definitely show signs that, hey, you might be ovulating, but you might not be able to, if you were to get pregnant, let's say, you may not be able to hold that pregnancy. So that's something that we can actually start working on now versus waiting until we're trying to find out or something bad happens, right? So that's why cycle sync is also very important, because even if you aren't trying to have a baby, you can still know how your body works, so that when you can start ruling out other things. Because I promise you, a lot of doctors ain't going to tell you a lot of this stuff either. Like, uh, you have to ask them, and they're going to probably not even know themselves, which is very unfortunate. So here I am sharing the news. So you want to first, again, track your period, but track it when you're bleeding red and it's consistently flowing. So not necessarily spotting, but it's like, you're on your period. But like I said, if it's brown, you might want to track it. Like, you do want to track it, but that may not be your actual day one. I will wait until you actually bleed red, because again, I had that confused before in the past. The second thing, so now that you're tracking your period, you then want to start tracking when you ovulate. There are a lot of ways to go about doing this. I explain a lot of this in my courses and in my e-guides, and it's really simple to track when you ovulate, because all you have to do is track your basal body temperature. But the problem with that is that, guess what? If you if you don't have a wearable device that you can wear at night or during the day, uh, you may not get the actual temperature that you need. So I highly encourage you, if you are trying to track your basal body temperature, but you don't want to purchase a wearable device, you want to take your temperature orally, just know that you got to wake up at the same exact time every morning and check your temperature. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I ain't a morning person. I don't feel like doing that. So I like things that come a little bit easier and a little bit more simple. So I wear my temp drop. Again, I talk about a lot about this in my e-guide, and I can put it in the chat if y'all want to check that out. But it's definitely something that is worth, because again, I like to know when my phases of my cycle are, when I ovulate, and plan around that, because it's definitely helped me. I I utilize this during my workouts. I utilize this for my nutrition. If I'm ever feeling like some weird cravings, you can also eat certain foods during the phases of your cycle to support your energy levels and to support your nutrition during that time. Because again, with the phases of your cycle, you're going to need different things a lot. And what you need is going to look different from what I need. And what I need is going to look different from what my mom needs and stuff like that. So you definitely want to make sure that, again, you're eating for your cycle. I explained about workouts a little bit earlier, but remember, like, the way that you're working out, you got to work out based off of the phases. Especially if you want to start seeing a balance, some supporting of the balancing of your hormones. I promise y'all, my body looked great. It looks amazing now, and that's the only thing that I switched, because I was working out before on a consistent weekly basis. Before, it was like 3 days a week, but it was like an hour long. We were doing workouts that I was like, oh, I cannot survive. I'm on my period. I don't know what to do. because again, we're told to push through and do all the things. And who want to do all that? If I'm on my period, I want to rest. I want to take my nap. So you got to listen to your body. Even let's say in your follicular phase, you're starting to work out again. You're starting to get those energy levels. But if you feel tired, see what's causing that tiredness, but also just rest. Sometimes your body just needs to rest. It doesn't need to be on the go, go, go all the time. Everybody's body is different. I know for me, if I am if I'm on the go, shoot, I'm gonna get my nap in. Shoot, my projector self. I need my naps. You ain't gonna take my naps away from me. So I make sure that like I do that during that phase. And but when I'm in ovulation, like look, I'm outside. Like I am social butterfly. I am doing all my strength trainings. I'm gonna get that extra rep in. I'm gonna up my weights. I'm gonna do all of that because I got the energy. I got the time. I'm in the mood. Like I could do all the things. But I promise you, next week it's gonna go. I'm gonna go a little bit like this because again, when you're in your ovulatory period, you have all the energy in the world. But once you hit that luteal phase, your energy levels are going to start to decrease. And they're going to decrease very noticeably if you don't go with the flow of your cycle. So again, I talk all about this in my e-guides. I have several of them. And I have a bundle package too. So y'all should check that out. Actually, matter of fact, I'm talking about y'all check this out. And y'all like, oh, where to go for the things? Hold on one second. But yeah, if y'all here with me, I see a couple of people here. Drop a message in the comments in the chat. The Phoenix Empress was here. Matter of fact, the Phoenix Empress, I actually like your name. I'm really tied to the word Phoenix. It speaks a lot to me. Let me see. Let me put this in the chat right here. So yeah, if y'all go check that out, purchase that e-guide. I promise y'all, everything that I'm talking about right now is all in those guides. I promise. But it's definitely something that I found a lot of passion in talking about. Cycle syncing is really not that hard. It really isn't. But you got to know when you ovulate and when your period is. If you know those two things, you got it. But if you don't, again, know about any of this information until you actually start trying to have children. And by then, typically with a lot of people, they start to run into issues because it's like you get told you got to go on birth control, or you know what, don't go on birth control, go freeze your eggs, go do this, go do that. And it's like some of that stuff is not feasible for everybody. And the process is even more painful to go through to do all those things than to actually just know when your body is doing what and start going from there. Not saying that you can't do all those things. I'm just saying that sometimes we have to look at a more holistic approach and not just rely on what society wants for us, especially if you're over a certain age. If you're a millennial right now, you probably already feeling like, all right, well, everybody want me to have a baby. Everybody want me to do this. Everybody want me to do that. And it's just like, guess what? Fun fact for this. The 35 years of age of being a geriatric pregnancy and things like that. Y'all do know that they just did a study and found that our eggs actually last way longer, and it ain't us. I'm just saying. Y'all should go check that out, because if y'all don't know, they haven't really done a lot of studies on women's health, in particular womb health. So a lot of what we've been told all these years, yeah, I think there's going to be a surge in more research development, more studies coming out showing that a lot of the people that made us feel bad for waiting a little bit longer to have children, they shouldn't have done that. And they should also be looking at the totality of how babies are made, because it ain't just about the egg. Sometimes it is about the sperm. It is about how how the father in that situation, how their emotions are, how they carry things. It's not just all on the mom. You know what I'm saying? So, um, whew, I said a lot. I told y'all I wasn't gonna be on here long, but I'm just gonna let y'all know I'm gonna be coming on here a little bit more. I'm gonna try to find the best day that works for me, and y'all gonna be seeing my face a lot more because I got a lot more to say about stuff. But if you like what you see, again, subscribe, follow, check out my website. Like I said, I have a bundle package going on right now. But for all those that are here, let me see. It's showing that I got 3 folks here. So for y'all that are here, if y'all went to that guide, but we're checking around, you're going to see that I have a period and body tracker that is complimentary. So I'm also put this in the chat for y'all because I want y'all to get started. If you haven't been tracking your period, I want y'all to start getting started on that. And then also take your body measurements every month. Your body does fluctuate, but sometimes if you go by measurements versus weight, that actually is more of a confidence boost versus looking at the weight, because weight can fluctuate. But you still need to know your weight. Just know that sometimes you gotta take more measurements and just have a little bit more data behind what you do. Everybody wants to see results and stuff. So yeah, y'all. But that's all I got right now. Again, my name is Monica with the K. You can follow me on here on YouTube. Please subscribe. Please like, comments, do all the things. And I'm gonna see y'all later. I'm also on Tickety Talk. I like to call it the Tickety Talk at Twisted_Intimacy and on IG with Twisted_Intimacy as well. So see y'all.